EDIUS 10 is designed to unleash your creativity and let you work on, uninterrupted. EDIUS is able to play almost everything in real time. But in a few cases, rendering is needed, for example when you export files. Until now, it wasn't possible to continue editing while EDIUS is rendering. But with EDIUS 10, this will change. A new render service is automatically installed with EDIUS 10. The render engine itself is not visible and operates in the background. You can watch the render service through the GV Job Monitor in the Tools menu. While jobs are rendered in the background, you are able to continue editing. Toast notifications pop up briefly to inform you if the render service needs your attention. All notifications are saved in the Windows 10 Action Center and can be reviewed later at any time. In EDIUS 10, you will find a new area, XRE, in the export dialog. This XRE technology stands for External Render Engine. It allows you to render jobs in the background. Before EDIUS 10, this XRE technology was only available as an option for EDIUS Workgroup. It needed another PC, a server, which rendered the jobs. In EDIUS 10, this function is now integrated into both Pro and Workgroup. There is no need for an additional PC, as the rendering is done in the background on the same PC as EDIUS. But you may still purchase an additional XRE license if you wish to use a separate server for additional render performance in the network. If you have purchased an XRE license, you can choose your external machine as the render server. Otherwise, the rendering will happen in the background on your computer, the local host. You can set priorities for jobs. Jobs with higher priority will be rendered first. If you export more than one file at a time, you can decide which will be rendered first and which will be done later. The rendering jobs registered in the render service are executed according to their priority. You can also use the batch export. Here, you can create a batch export list before starting to output the files. This list can be used continuously. The batch export settings are saved with the project. So it is helpful if you regularly need to export the same areas of a project. For example, every time you update the project, you can reuse the export settings. On the other hand, it is also useful if you want to divide a longer video into individual video clips. You simply set the in and out of the desired clip and type in a file name. The background rendering will continue while you keep working on your project. The rendering status and results can be observed in the GV Job Monitor.
The background render engine can also be used to convert files. This is a feature which might not be integrated in the first release of EDIUS 10, but will follow as a free update.
Bin file conversions into all kinds of intermedia formats will be possible in EDIUS 10. Those conversions of a single file as well as batch conversions take place in the background. This allows you to convert a large number of files while continuing to work on your project. There are different scenarios where a file conversion makes sense. For example, if you work with RAW files or H.265-based files, converting them to the Grass Valley HQX codec helps to improve the performance on your computer. Or you can bring all footage into the standard file format you usually work with. This is a typical workflow for a TV station which has, for example, XDCAM HD or ProRes as their standard format. When converting, you can not only change the file format or codec, you can even change parameters like resolution, frame rate, aspect ratio, and so on. To start a conversion, right-click on one or multiple files in the bin window and select Convert. Here you have three options: File, File Batch, or Alpha Matte. So you can convert a single file, all selected files, or even create file with alpha information. The details of the output format are set in the Export dialog. The created jobs can be watched in the GV Job Monitor. You can also see the progress of the conversion on the clip thumbnail in the bin. When the job is completed, it changes to an online clip. If you work on a complex timeline, it might be useful to render parts of it. You can visually identify those parts that will not be able to play back in real time. If you play back the timeline, you will see that the indicator on the ruler control changes from orange to cyan, meaning that the area can be played back in real time. Changing to red indicates that this area cannot be played back in real time. In this case, it is useful to render the section. You can either start a rendering job from the context menu of the ruler controller or from the render menu of the menu bar. In general, there are either loaded, orange and red, or overloaded, only red, areas that can be rendered. You can render these areas either throughout the entire project, a sequence, or between the in and out points on your timeline. When selecting between in and out, you can even render everything, including those parts where rendering is not needed. When the render process is registered as a background job, the indicator will be displayed in pink. It will change to green when the rendering job is done. You can observe the job in the Job Monitor. If you apply any changes to the part which is being rendered, you will see that the color indicator changes back to orange. At the same time, Edius will automatically skip the background rendering job for the changed area. Areas which have not been changed will continue to be rendered. Edius is known for its excellent real-time capability. If you use non-real-time third-party plugins, you might want to render anyway. To render individual clips or transitions, you can either start the rendering process by right-clicking on the clip on the timeline, or by choosing Render Selected Clip Transitions from the Render menu in the menu bar. If you apply any changes to the clip which is being rendered, you will see that the color indicator changes back to orange. Edius will automatically skip the background rendering job for this clip. The clips remain rendered even if you move them on the timeline. Even in earlier Edius versions, waveform cache files and proxy files were rendered in the background. In Edius 10, these so-called sidecar files are generated by the new background render engine, just like export, conversions, and render processes. You can create a waveform cache file by opening the clip properties and then choosing Refresh Wave Data. The progress is displayed on the thumbnail in the bin window and can also be observed in the Job Monitor. Here you can also toggle the priority up or down. Proxy files are created automatically when starting the proxy mode. In earlier Edius versions, you could only export H.265 using QuickSync. With Edius 10, encoding of H.265 material is now possible with an NVIDIA graphics card. To encode H.265, you need an NVIDIA GPU starting with GTX 1050 or better, RTX 2060 or better, or an equivalent Quadro GPU. The better the GPU, the faster the export and the background rendering.